Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I thought I would go through my 2022 reading stats. So I'm in a slightly different filming location today because I wanted to have my laptop in front of me. There are a lot of graphs that I'm going to be going through. I have done this video before actually. I did a mid-year reading stats video back in, it would have been around July. I always enjoy watching these videos. I always like looking back on how my reading went over the past year. So my goal for 2022 was to read 100 books, which I did do. I read 113 books in total. I should say actually that all of the graphs in this video are either from Goodreads or from my reading spreadsheet, which was created by Ali from Hardback Hoarder. I'll leave her channel linked in the description just in case you wanted to check it out. The shortest book I read was Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood, which was 112 pages, and then the longest book I read was The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, which was 906 pages. My average book length in 2022 was 383 pages, which I feel like is around average. I feel like the average book is around 350 pages. I did read quite a few short books last year, but I also read some really chunky fantasy books. The most popular book that I read was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which has been shelved over 3 million times. And then the least well-known book that I read was Single Bold Female by Laura Price, which has only been shelved around 1,000 times. My average rating for 2022 was 3.8, which I'm pretty happy with. Know My Name by Chanel Miller is the book that has the highest average rating on Goodreads, and I would agree with that. I did think that it was a good non-fiction book. It's a memoir and it was really powerful actually. I would recommend it. Just check the trigger warnings beforehand. But yeah, I read over 100 books in total in 2022. I think that's the third year in a row that I've done that, and it's all thanks to BookTube and audiobooks as well. I don't think I would read as much as I do if it wasn't for audiobooks, because I listen while I'm cooking or cleaning or while I'm out walking or driving. This was the first year where I actually tracked the number of audiobook hours that I was listening to. So I read 30,880 pages, but I listened to 384.5 hours of audiobooks. Audiobooks also now make up around a third of my reading. So I read 33 audiobooks, 43 ebooks, and 37 physical books. My best reading month in terms of volume and also average rating was actually January, and then my worst reading month was October. However, I did move house in October, so that's probably why I wasn't reading as much. Generally speaking, I don't really care about the number of books that I'm reading because I always say quality over quantity. I care more about reading 4 and 5 star books rather than reading books that I'm either not enjoying or that I'm finding just kind of average. In terms of star ratings, I gave out 25 stars last year and only 9 2-star ratings, and this is why I found it really difficult to narrow down my best books of the year list. If you watched that video, you'll know that I ended up doing something like a top 16 books of the year because there were just so many books that I read last year that I really loved, and I'm actually really struggling to put together my worst books of the year list or my most disappointing books of the year list. That should be one of the videos that's coming out later this month. But yeah, I think that 9 2-star ratings across a whole year when I read over 100 books is pretty good. The majority of the books that I read were 4 stars, which is what I want it to be. And actually I wanted to have a conversation about this because when I pick up a book, and I don't know if everyone else feels this way or this is what everyone else goes through, but when I pick up a book, I expect it to be 4 stars. So if a book exceeds expectations, that's when I give it 5 stars. If it's exactly what I was expecting it to be, then I give it 4 stars. If it's a little disappointing, then I give it 3 stars. But if it's really disappointing, that's when I drop it to 2 stars. So I really struggle to give out 1-star ratings because it's very rare that a book disappoints me that much. However, I've heard that some people don't do that. I think that's why my favourite reviews to read are 3-star reviews, because I know generally speaking that 4 and 5-star reviews are going to be positive and 1 or 2-star reviews are going to be negative, but 3-star reviews I find really interesting because I feel like people are more likely to give reasons why they liked and didn't like it. I feel like I've just gone on a really big ramble and it's going to be really hard for me to edit that, but yeah, let me know in the comments what your thought process is. When you pick up a book, do you go into it thinking it's going to be 4 stars or 3 stars or 5 stars? To be fair, there are some books that I go into expecting them to be new favourites. For example, if I've read a book by that author before, and that's how sometimes I'll read a book and give it 4 stars, but it'll still disappoint me because I did go into it wanting it to be 5 stars. But what I was trying to say is that generally I go into books expecting them to be 4 stars, so it's good that the majority of the books that I read in 2022 were 4 stars. I've spoken about this in videos before, but I don't really take many risks when it comes to my reading. I do tend to pick up books that I'm genuinely interested in, so it's good that that's reflected in my star ratings. In terms of intended audience, I read 100 adult books, 3 new adult books, and 10 YA books. Yeah, I don't really read that much YA anymore. Not that I have anything against it, I have still enjoyed some YA books recently. I'm just quite picky with the YA books that I do pick up now, and actually of the YA books that I read last year, 5 of those were part of the Georgia Nicholson series, which was one of my favourite series when I was a teenager, so I decided to listen to the audiobooks because I was feeling nostalgic. The other YA books that I read were the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson and Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. Loved the first 2 books in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, but I hated the last book, and Heartstopper I also enjoyed. I actually gifted the whole series to my niece for Christmas. Next up we have my genre graph, which is always a mess because I read so many different genres, and apparently in 2022 I read from 12 different genres, but my most read genres were still thrillers, fantasy and romance in that order. Then I also read a significant amount of contemporary fiction. I think in previous years fantasy has been my most read genre, however I did do a reading vlog last year where I read the Waterstones thrillers of the month, so every book that had been chosen to be a Waterstones thriller of the month, and so that's probably why it's the biggest pie slice this year. One of my favourite graphs to look at is where I sourced the books that I read, so around 25% of the books that I read last year were from Scribd, which is always good to know because I pay for Scribd, so I like to know that I am getting that value. Most of the books that I read last year were published either in 2022 or 2021, which I am happy with. I think I'm pretty sure it's an even split, so half of the books that I read were published within the last 2 years and half of the books that I read were published before then. I do like reading new releases because I get caught up in the hype, and I find that if I leave it too long then I lose a little bit of interest in those books, but it is also good to know that I'm still working through my backlist TBR. Finally, I wanted to quickly go through some author stats. So 70% of the books that I read were written by female authors, and then 23% were written by male authors. I also read 7 books that were written by non-binary authors. 78% of the books that I read were written by white authors, which I think is an increase on what I read the previous years, so that's something that I do want to work on in 2023. Over half of the books that I read last year were written by authors who I've read from before, and then only 16 of the books that I read in 2022 were written by debut authors. The final graph that I wanted to go through was author nationality. So over half of the books that I read last year were written by American authors, and then just under a third were written by British authors, and then the rest was a mix of different nationalities. One of my ongoing goals is to read more translated fiction, and I feel like I did do that last year, but I didn't track it, which is annoying. I wish I'd noticed that sooner, but yeah, that is something that I would like to track in 2023 because I do enjoy reading translated fiction, and I know that I read some last year, I just can't remember exactly how many. That does bring me to the end of the video though, so thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments how many 5 stars did you have in 2022 and how many 2 stars did you have, because I'm really curious to compare if I'm being really generous with my ratings or whether I'm being too lenient. I don't think there's such a thing, but I'm always really curious to see how my reading compares to others. So yeah, let me know in the comments. So just anything that you would like. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.